Hello, everybody. It is Friday, the 2nd of January. I want to talk about the black cube Saturn and whether or not this is an artificial matrix. Now, I'm going a bit far out, and that is to say, I cannot prove what it is I'm saying. I'm going by knowledge that was given, and I'm putting puzzle pieces together. Whether those puzzle pieces were true to start with, I don't know. But I'm just trying to create a picture here. I say far out because it is not actually, for me, it is not based on solid knowledge, only on what I've heard. And I guess I'm going by trust. But the thing is, if we don't have knowledge coming from somewhere, we have nothing to think about. Yeah, knowledge is the foundation of thought. So, whether my foundation is solid, that's another question. But I just want to go ahead with this anyway, because I think it is very important. It is important for the question of whether we live in an artificial matrix. Again, two things to say from the start. First of all, consciousness. I'm going by the Hermetic knowledge. And the Hermetic knowledge is that consciousness cannot be known. Because consciousness is essentially the all itself. And the all itself cannot be known. We can see what consciousness creates. We can see things, and that will become important, how consciousness is influenced by other sources. We can see that, but we cannot explain consciousness itself on any level. So we just have to go from the foundation that it exists. And I mean, we can go from that foundation because we're experiencing consciousness. So I think we can, with high amount of certainty, say it does exist. So we go from there, consciousness exists, and then just to see what it is in, how it has been influenced, what is it does. That is the level we can go to, not to the level of knowing consciousness itself. But knowing what it is and how it is influenced will help us to get to a higher level of consciousness without, again, only accepting that it exists. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I want to talk about sciences, and that is the ancient science and the science that we have now. So, and it says in the Kabbalion, let me read this here quickly. The truth is that beneath material chemistry, which is the sciences of today, beneath material chemistry, astronomy, and psychology, that is the psychology in its phase of brain action. The ancient possessed a knowledge of transcendental astronomy, called astrology, of transcendental chemistry, called alchemistry, of transcendental psychology, called mystic psychology. They possess the inner knowledge as well as the outer knowledge, the latter alone being possessed by modern science. So modern science is purely material, and that means knowing the outcome. And they don't go very far into the cause of the outcome. Transcendental would mean they're going deeper into the cause, into the knowledge of the cause of what is creating the material outcome. And I want to talk mainly about transcendental astronomy, which was astrology, the ancient astrology and what it actually was. As I said, they went deeper into the mystery of existence, and I would say into the level of energy and vibration, which still does not explain consciousness. It can't. Consciousness is beyond even that. But it is an understanding, so we know what it is we're doing. Right, I want to talk about the black cube Saturn. Again, somebody is putting two things together. The black cube and Saturn. And I think they are two different things. I mean, even in the picture itself, they are two different things. Saturn is a sphere. A cube is a cube. They are not the same thing. Saturn is not black, from what we can see. Again, go by the evidence of your own lying eyes. Yeah? And then people try to put it together by saying, well, Saturn is this sphere and there is a hexagon-shaped storm on the surface of Saturn, which is interesting. So it is a cube. I mean, how do you even get there? A hexagon is not a cube. There is no relation between the two. Even in the picture there isn't. And picture is already a level of truth. A low level of truth, but it is truth. Go by your own knowing. They are not the same. But here is, again, what the Hermetics say, beware of half-truth. Beware of half-truth. Wisdom, every truth is made up of two parts. And only if you see both parts do you have wisdom and the knowledge of the whole. Yeah? So to say, again, this is an artificial matrix and everybody is sheep-herded into that thought, might be a half-truth. And that is the way the devil lies. By elevating a half-truth into the whole truth, which it is not. So to say Saturn and the cube are the same thing, it doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. The other thing I was thinking about is that nature, and here is that what we describe as nature, as naturally evolved, is of the all. And the other is man-made, made by a being. Any being is artificial. That what is created on the level of being is artificial. What is natural is of the all itself, that way. And if you talk about a cube that has got 90-degree angles, obviously, to make a cube, nature very seldom, in fact, I cannot think of an example where nature naturally produces 90-degree angles. That is usually artificial. So again, I would say Saturn, natural, yes. The cube, to me, definitely looks artificial. Technology, that sort of thing. Again, think about it as two different things. It is when you come from, again, you create a solid foundation. This is the truth. Yeah, the truth is this is an artificial matrix, and you must go from that point. And again, then you start bending yourself into knots, trying to explain how two different things are the same thing. And when you have if you don't have that foundation to start with, you can clearly say they are two different things. They are not the same. So, astrology, the knowledge of the ancients. And here comes what I was thinking about, the song of the spheres, the music of the spheres, the vibrations of the spheres. The knowledge that the planets emit vibrations that by which we are influenced. Yeah? So we are in a natural array of spheres in the solar system that emit vibrations that influence this world. influence us in this world. And their knowledge then of astronomy, when they predicted things, yeah, was out of the knowledge that Earth would be influenced by certain vibrations at a certain time. And that knowledge not so much being as go against it, but accept that it will happen, and that certain vibrations are conducive to certain tasks at the time. So again, that is, and it is based, I would say, on scientific knowledge. And that is looking at what is happening at the world, seeing the changes in vibration in this world, trying to find the source that is creating those changes. And I would say the search for the source took them to the planets, and then by continuous observation of, well, go from the idea it is coming from the planet, and then by continuous observation of what is happening when the planets are in a certain place, then finding the proof whether your theory was right. And they got deep knowledge of how the planets influence, how the song of the spheres, how the vibrations of the spheres influence what is happening in this world, because they're influencing us. And I said, based on continuous observation, which is science. That is how science should work. You don't make it up as you go along, but it is based on something, based on observation. So I would say they had that knowledge. And I say, I don't think it was used to go up against it, but to accept there would be certain influences at certain time, and how can you use those influences for good? How could they aid you at that time? And that would, I would say, is creating the natural matrix. That is the natural matrix that we're in. And that matrix is of the all. It is not artificially, it is of the mind of the all. Not artificially created. So let's come to the cube, because as I said, the cube to me looks artificial, created by something that is on the level of being. So what does the cube do? And how is the cube being mentioned in the same way as Saturn? Because I think they're doing the same thing. As I said, the spheres emit vibrations. Let me just say before that, when David Icke says we are on this narrow band of consciousness, yeah, I was thinking the way that a planet has to be from a certain distance from a sun, you know, what we call the Goldilocks zone, for life to exist on that planet. I would say it might be true on the level of consciousness, that there needs to be a certain array of a certain amount of vibrations for consciousness to exist. It is not that we are trapped on a narrow band. Without that narrow band, consciousness couldn't even exist. So, and it is an array of vibrations from the highest to the lowest. They are all necessary for consciousness to exist. And for those that go, you know, or go into the higher vibration, there is the truth. No, you're going into half-truth. You're going, again, you're being sheep-herded into half-truth. The fullness of the truth is the fullness of the spectrum of vibrations, and that includes the lower. So again, we were on a natural band of vibrations that produces consciousness. Without it, it couldn't exist. That is our Goldilocks zone, vibrational Goldilocks zone that consciousness exists in. And now the black cube and Saturn. Now, I heard it said that Saturn emits low vibrations. Again, I would say necessary for the whole band of vibrations to be there, but it is the place of Saturn to emit the low vibrations. That is its function. And then I say, if you talk about the black cube, it does the same as Saturn. It emits low vibrations. That is why the two are linked, because they're doing the same thing, not because they are the same thing, but they are doing the same thing. Artificially emitting low vibrations. Now, whereas naturally, the natural array of vibrations is of the all, is according to the all, and whatever is created by the all is good for all. It is always all. It is what it is. It is all, and it serves all. All life on earth. All level of consciousness on earth. From the mineral, vegetative, animal, man. So, what is done by the all is done for all, because they are all of it. Everything is of the all. Whereas, especially what is created by the biblical God, by those beings that want to have dominion, that want to rule over for their own benefit. So what would be admitted by the black cube would not be good for all. Not good for all life on earth. Not good for all consciousness on earth. But it will direct the affairs of man. It will influence us in a way that serves them. Simple as that. Now, where this idea of the black cube, where do we even find it in this world? As I said, the Hermetic knowledge, the knowledge of the natural law, the knowledge of the natural things that are naturally in existence. They're not talking about the cube. They're talking about the Song of the Spheres. They're talking, So where does the black cube come into it? And again, it is in religion, especially the Abrahamic religions. There is where the black cube is. It is obviously in Islam. You've got the Kaaba, which is a black cube. You have it in Christianity, because what is being said to come to earth in the end, New Jerusalem, if you look at the measurements that are given in the New Testament, it is a cube. And you have it in Judaism, very much so. And here I want to come to the mark of the beast. And the usage of the tefillin by Orthodox Jews, the use of the tefillin during prayer. Now, tefillin is a small black cube box, leather box, that they strap to the forehead, and, to the, right here, okay, let me read this. The arm tefillin, or shelyat, literally of the hand, it actually means of the hand, is placed on the upper non-dominant arm and straps wrapped around the forelimb, hand, and middle finger. So they strap the teflon to their arm, but it actually means of the hand. And the straps go through the hands. The head teflon is here in the forehead, and that, I would say, what we call covering the third eye. Yeah? Inside of the teflon are Bible, Torah verses, which is Old Testament Bible to us. Deuteronomy 13 and Exodus 13 and Deuteronomy 11. I don't know if I should read out the verses itself. I might, just to make it full. So the verses are, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the firstborns, whatsoever opens the womb amongst the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by the strength of the Lord, you know what, I leave it. Read it yourself. It is very long. It is Exodus 13, 1 till 16, and it is Deuteronomy 13 till 21. Now, the mark of the beast on the forehead and in the right hand is what the book of Revelation says. And I've just heard a video which puts it very well. And it said the mark means that it is those that are sealed. Sealed to God, sealed to the service of the beast. Sealed, hermetically sealed. That is all the information they receive. They are no longer of this world, which means the fullness of the information, but they are sealed on a very small portion of the information. And again, the portion that is coming from what? The black cube. No longer the natural all. And here comes that God creates man in his image. Not on the level of the material, but on the level of thought, of emotion, of vibration. Man will do according to the will of God, because they are on the same vibration. They think the same, they feel the same, which is different from human thought and human emotion and human judgment of good and bad. So, is this an artificial matrix? Again, half-truth. I think the fullness of the truth is it is both. It was a purely natural matrix at some stage. I would say at the stage of the Hermetics, yes, because I don't think they mentioned the cube. Something came to influence the affairs of man, yeah, but I think on a level of energy and vibration. Spiritual wickedness. Spiritual, not the material is then the outcome that is created through the spiritual. So I think we must consider that natural or artificial, that it might be both. So where is the black cube? That's the next thing. I mean, if you ask me that, you're right to ask. I have no idea. We say we have telescopes, we should be able to see it. Now, the only thing I can think of is, I mean, Saturn is a big planet. Yeah, and you can quite possibly hide something behind it from, the other side of the Earth view. And I also think that if the cube exists, that it does not influence us directly, but it does influence Saturn. And through Saturn, influences us, changing the vibrations, changing the song of the sphere that is Saturn, and by that influencing us. Now, another thing I've seen in this world, if that cube is still there, I don't know. There are still those that are in service that are sealed to the knowledge of the cube, and that are absolutely no longer in the natural vibrations. Well, does all of that still exist? Or has humanity learned how to work these things? Has worked it out? What it is they were doing, if they're no longer doing it, and now doing it for themselves. Those that want to have dominion. Because I've seen in this world devices being sold that you can put into your house that artificially influence your vibrations. So I don't know if the black cube is still there, and then I'm producing lots and lots of small cubes that we can put all into our house. And the thing is that at the moment you can control the settings. At the moment you can control the settings. You set the box. Could there be a time when you can no longer set the settings yourself, but they're being set by some central control that sets the setting on all the boxes? And then again, you would be living in an artificial matrix. And if that overrides the natural vibrations of this world, by which we should know ourselves, then yes, we would be living in a completely artificial matrix. The thing is, we are being driven out there into all possibilities, far out, really far out, other dimensions, the cosmos, whatever. And they're sneaking these things in under our nose, where it's exactly where we're not looking, what is right in front of our nose. And I really think if we are to wake up into an awareness of what is happening, first of all, we need to stop looking out there. I would look no further than, what is happening in your own life, obviously, and the solar system, maybe. But for now, I would not look any further than that. So, yeah. Are we in an artificial matrix? From what I can see at the moment, I say it is both. There was a natural matrix. There were spheres. There still are spheres that emanate vibrations, that influence the world, that create the array of vibrations, both the highest and the lowest, in which consciousness exists. I think that was there from the beginning. And we were in it. And we gained knowledge of it. And that was the ancient knowledge of astrology, which went beyond physical astronomy, but to the point of energy vibration, how the spheres influence us. And that was, I would say, scientific. There was a lower level given to the masses that then worshipped the spheres as gods, which is religion and a very low level of understanding. I would say the real masters were on a higher level of understanding, far higher. So that was in this world. And then if a black cube appeared and people had knowledge of that and served, got themselves sealed onto the vibrations of the black cube out of the natural vibrations. And then in this, again on the religious terms, we would say they are the servants of God, which is again a very low level of understanding what is actually going on. But being driven into half-truth, right now being driven into a half-truth, this is an artificial matrix. And then everything has to be explained from that one truth. Yeah? Out of the duality, we mustn't be in a duality. Into the one truth. This is an artificial matrix. And then you come to a point where you have to explain how a sphere with a hexagon on the top is the same as a black cube. And you need to bend over backwards and tie yourself into knots to explain that. Whereas if you don't have the foundation of this as an artificial matrix, you can look at the thing and by the evidence of your own lying eyes, you can say they are not the same. They are two different things. And then you see the duality of it. I think it gets you closer to the truth. So I don't know what we do with this. You know, what would you do about, if there's a black cube there, what would you do about it? Or how could you escape its influence? That is, you don't have to escape this world. You don't have to get out of this world. You don't have to get out of this band of consciousness, of this band of energies and vibrations. You don't have to get out of it. But is there some way by which you can become aware of the influence of the cube and then shift your awareness onto the purely natural vibrations? Can you actually do that? Can we do that? Can we filter that black cube thing out and shift our consciousness, our awareness purely onto the natural vibrations? Is that the way out? Not by leaving, not by coming just higher vibration, not by whatever, but understanding it in ourselves and making a conscious shift and blocking the other thing out. I think we can block things out. I think we're very good at blocking things out if we want to. If we don't want to hear something, or we don't want to see something, people are terribly good at blocking it out and pretending it doesn't exist. Most religions, again, do that. They block out an awful lot of reality to make theirs the only truth. But can we actually do that on a vibrational level? Can we block something out? Can we determine ourselves what it is we receive? Again, would that be a point of self-mastery? And if we could do that, I mean, there's an awful lot of ifs here, I know that. But if we could do that, then, I mean, that black cube can hang there all it likes. If we do not receive it, it is utterly useless. So is it up to us? Do we have self-determination on that level? Can we have mastery on that level? Anyway, as I said, a lot of ifs based on stories. But are those stories not just fairy tales? Are they for most of us a memory? rather than a fairy tale? And are there those in this world to whom that is not even a memory but an experienced reality? And are they working that reality? Whilst the rest of us are being thrown one way or another by these energies, by these vibrations, and being played like a fiddle. We're being played like a fiddle. Is that the truth we have to wake up to? The truth of the duality rather than the one truth, which is half-truth, which is then a lie. Devil's lie is a half-truth. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. I just would like people to start considering dualities rather than it's this or it's that, and you must make a choice. Either choice you make will be the wrong one because you're running into a half-truth. I leave it at that for today. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.